Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 10x Freelancer Podcast. We're so happy to have you today. This is going to be an interesting episode. If you are following us on LinkedIn, you will notice that we've made a post yesterday asking you if you have any question for our guests. Some people dropped those questions, some didn't. But then, if you are watching us from anywhere in the world, please do know that this is episode 3. And I don't know when you're watching this, but we always upload on YouTube later. Thank you for joining us. Do well to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So on today's episode, I have, of course, Nilanjan, who is my co-host all the time. In the last episode, we had a lot of interesting conversations, right? He's here with us today. And Neil, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Neil. I'm a CEO and a founder of PeerToPeer.
All right. So, and our guest for today, who is the most important person, is Jennifer Bleen. And Jennifer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. Well, I can't even speak right now. So thank you for having me on here. I'm Jennifer Bleen, and I'm a serial founder. So I have several different ventures as a freelancer, and so I think we'll be talking a little bit about that today.
Yeah. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So, normally, what we try to achieve with 10x Freelancer Podcast is to bring a lot of freelancers, people that have built businesses or professional freelancers, to come and share their story, share their experiences, more like take us through the life journey, how they've started, and the things that they did to be, you know, get to where they are today. So, the last 2 episodes, if you've not seen them, please do well to check out the YouTube channel, and then today we are going to hear the Jennifer story, right? I don't think I just made that up. Jennifer story. Nice. Right. So, so Jennifer is a serial entrepreneur, right? Which means okay. Maybe we should start with that. So, Jennifer, what does it mean to be a serial entrepreneur?
Well, I think from the way I look at it is that you start a lot of businesses, and in some cases, some of those businesses do fail. Some of those businesses do go on to be, longer living type of ventures and things like that. But I think it's more of a mindset of always looking at what's possible, looking at the opportunities, and not being afraid to try them, being open and willing to take risks where maybe others are afraid to. And so I think as I kind of embody, like, well, what does it mean to me? It really has been, I see an opportunity and it's like, oh, wow, you know what? What can we do with that opportunity? How can we make somebody's life better? It's not always about money, even though, that of course is helpful, right? And drives our economy. But I really do think it's about seeing opportunities and being willing to give them a try. And I've done this in the nonprofit space. I've done it in for-profit space, both. So.
All right. So, how? Sorry, I'm jumping into the next question immediately,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah. So, and I want to ask 2 questions. One is something that has to do with the failure thing that you talked about, that some of the businesses failed and then some of
Mhm.
them go on to succeed, right? But then I want to ask how you got into this. How did you become like a serial entrepreneur? What was the backstory? Was there anything that happened? Yeah, I just want to know something like that. The
Sure.
backstory. Yeah.
Well, my backstory goes all the way back to about I think I was 7 years old. I had my first venture. And I grew up in an environment where there's a lot of blue collar workers. In fact, we were very poor. My family and we traveled around the country as my dad was looking for work. And a lot of times we were living in state parks. Like we didn't have a home. We would sleep in the tents until you heard the coyotes and stuff. Then you'd go into the car and wait till they were away. Um, so I think growing up in that environment, there was a lot of hustle culture. So it's like, oh, we gotta get food, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. So it could have been doing cans, it could have been doing, collecting cans. It could be going out. I cleaned outhouses in parks where we were living to get cash. I did that when I was 12. But my first venture, I'd say, was when I was 7, and we were living in a little town in Ohio, and my parents couldn't afford to give me ice cream truck money, and every week the ice cream truck would come down our street. And I noticed like, oh, we take deposits on all the soda bottles. So for the younger audience here who may not know about that, you used to have to pay a deposit, and soda came in bottles, not cans. And so what I did is I rallied up the local kids in the neighborhood. I didn't have a wagon. I couldn't afford one, but a couple of them did. And we used their wagons, and we went door to door asking people, hey, can we return your bottles for you? Because it was really more of a pain, and nobody really cared about the 10 cents.
True.
But to
Very
us,
true.
that was gold, right? It was gold for us.
Yeah.
So we would do that. And there was a little corner store that sold for a penny. You got a Swedish fish and, different kinds of candy and, 10-cent candy, 5-cent candy. And so for us, it was a group of us, and we would just go around door to door, and we'd collect those, take them down, and then we'd split the revenue and get our candy. And then we'd have our money for when the ice cream truck came by. So it really was born out of, hey, I got a problem to solve, right? And my parents can't give me what I want, so I need to go and figure it out. Later, when I was traveling and moving all the time, being a new kid on the block, it's hard to make friends. And so what I decided to do is a lot of the different locations, I would create a club. I always call this my first meetup. I would create a club, and I'd charge the neighborhood kids 50 cents to be in my club. So now instead of just being the new kid, right? Like, it's like, oh, if you want to be my friend, I flipped the tables and you had to pay 50 cents. And now what I did with the money,
That's just crazy. What kind of clubs? I mean, was there a team around this club or just?
well, and that's where I would take the money and I'd go down to the local store, buy paper, tape, and staples, and we would sit and make little paper envelopes or crafts, or we would just do crafty things with it. It wasn't like I used the money for anything important, but it was the point that's like, hey, pay me 50 cents. We pull the money together, go buy some supplies, and then we hang out and create things. And then I would be there a couple months, and then we would move. But it was a way to at least, get, again, the problem was if I wanted to do crafts and my parents couldn't afford the materials, it was a way to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. If we kind of fast forward later in life, because I then worked lots of jobs. I mean, in high school, I was working 3 different jobs while I was a high school student. So it was always like kind of that hustle. And I saw the hustle with my parents. My mom used to do calligraphy and paint signs for small businesses. And she would do that as kind of like a side hustle outside of whatever job she was able to get at the time. Both of my grandfather on my mom's side and my grandmother, they never finished high school. Right? It was wartime, all that kind of stuff. But both of them went on. Now, my grandmother, she ended up being a single mom at a time where people didn't get divorced. So you really get outcasted at that point in society back in the 30s, 40s, if you were divorced. And so she would do all kinds of different side hustles, from cleaning, cutting hair, doing all kinds of things. So it was really just that. I think part of it is I grew up around, hey, it's okay. Bad things can happen. You can be in a crappy situation, but you still got to survive. And then my grandfather went on to actually build a machine shop. They were one of the key machinists for Pittsburgh Steel and some other companies in the area. So he, did that until he retired. And then my uncle ended up buying that business till he retired. So it was just very entrepreneurial from that perspective. But as I moved forward, when I had my plans at college change. So I originally was thinking, I'm going to go to medical school, and I was doing cancer research and doing all the things in preparation to build my resume for that. I got pregnant right when I graduated college for my undergrad. And it was like, oh crap, that just kind of blew things up. And what my plans were was, how am I going to do this? I knew I was going to be single. And so in that, it became, again, kind of a survival thing. So there had been a couple of ventures in that time frame where I had some partners. We were going to go open a restaurant down in South Beach, Miami, had somebody to back us. And then the partner said, we don't want to go. And I'm like, okay, crap. Well, I can't go. So we had a business plan I couldn't do anything with. I had a site already picked out, kind of died on the vine when partners backed out. Another one was that I was going to do a salon. I went and I got a license and everything for that. Because again, I had somebody who'd be willing to put the money, but then I started breaking out to the chemicals. Like, okay, well, that's not going to be a good idea if I start having reactions to the chemicals in my environment. So I went and, tried different jobs, and I really kind of landed into consulting. I never knew what a consultant was. And I was doing some work with one of like a large bank in the US, and I was working in one department, and someone said, "Hey, there's a role and you've got the background and skill set for it. It's in the same company, but it's in a different area of the company, and it would be as a consultant." And I was like, "Well, what's a consultant? What does that mean?" And I remember asking around, "Well, what should I be charging for doing this?" Right? Because that was a big thing. I still think I probably undercharged, but I didn't, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know. And so then what I learned, though, is that there's this whole other world that exists. And once I got a taste of that, I was like, oh, wow, I get to choose. I get to have more control over my time. I get to have more dollars in. And with those dollars in, I get to start to dictate where those dollars go. Because you've all probably seen, it's like, hey, if you're an employee, taxes come off first, right? Then you have to pay for everything. And I started realizing, like, well, a lot of what I do is the income expenses. I get to deduct them before I pay taxes. So that was like a little bit of a bug that bit me. I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. And I made a lot more at the end of the day, because I was keeping more of the money I was making, plus I was getting a higher rate being the outside consultant than being.
What was your first responsibility? Like, what was the job title?
And that I was an availability manager.
What does that mean?
So back when, oh gosh.
You said it's a bank, right?
Yeah, it was with a bank. So in that case, what I was doing, so as the availability manager, my responsibility is if there was any sub 1 tickets across the organization, our team, there was a small group of us, were responsible. So we were on call 24/7. So it was a very, like, you got one weekend off a month. But anything that happened, these were like multi-million-dollar minute problems.
Right.
And so you were responsible to get on the call, find the root cause and solve it and get everything backing up as quick as possible. And then depending on what it was, we would travel to sites. So there were times I was traveling out to various data centers and call centers, and we were looking at everything from the building, the network, the infrastructure, the software, sitting down with the people doing the work. And then we were finding anywhere there were inefficiencies, there were lags and things like that. And so in doing all of that, it was a lot of fun. I was young. I got to travel. I had one child at the time, and she loved it because I had an office in Columbus and I had an office in Florida, and I had rented a house down there with a swimming pool. So she used to fly by herself as a 5-year-old. And there's all the safety protocols for doing that. Right. But she would come off the airplane with her Barbie suitcase and like many containers of gifts from all the flight attendants, right? So for her, it was like a big adventure. She'd come down, go swimming, hang out with mommy. I would take her into the office. So I know that was not what a lot of people would do, but I'm like, I'm a mom. If you want me here, my daughter's coming. And I used to have her with her blanket, and we'd set her up in the corporate office in a little window, and she was like a little cat sit in the sunshine, and she'd take naps. And this was part of things I had to learn, because later when I had more children, in that situation, I had to work a lot of night shifts for, software releases, and they'd be overnight. And so they would come with me. I'm like, who's going to watch my kids? Okay. So I would make tents, and all the people around would, we'd have like the candies and cookies and things like that and stuff. Or when it was holidays, and we'd make I don't know if you ever saw the show like Romper Room, but we would take a section of our agile space, because we had about 40 people on one of the programs I was working with. And we just quarantined off like a little corner, and said, hey, okay, it's no school that day, and if we want to all be here to work, and a lot of people had daycare issues, we would just pull furniture from the hallway and we'd make a section. And then we just had a whole routine of who's bringing coloring books, who's bringing what snacks and things like that. And we would take turns throughout the day that the different parents, because we were all in one big room, agile spaces are,
Right.
and stuff.
Right.
But
Is
so
that how
survival.
you got into computers, like software? Is that the first?
My first getting into IT goes all the way back. This was even before the consulting.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I know we're kind of skipping around here. But the point of it is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't do things.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
You might have a manager here or there that may like frown upon certain things. But I will say when you're an outsider and you're not inside the machine, you get a lot more influence to do the things you need to do. And for me, being a freelancer, being a consultant, doing, different side hustles was more of a survival mechanism because I needed to have income. I needed to support my children, and I didn't have a lot of support. And so to make it all work, I had to make my own rules. And so that also influenced what kind of assignments I would take. There were times I turned down assignments because I didn't have the flexibility I wanted, or they wouldn't let me work from home because working from home pre-COVID wasn't a thing, but I pretty much had that with every contract. I could work from home at least part-time. So it was just, there were certain things that I had to get really solid that let me select what kinds of jobs I wanted to go after, what kinds of opportunities I was going to say no to. And sometimes that meant there may not be any income that was coming in for a couple of months because I said no to some opportunities. And I had to be okay with that. But that means you also have to be a strategist and a planner because you got to make sure you get your fallback. And so
let's dive into that a little bit because I feel like based on the audience we know, lots of audience, there is a common, that's the risk factor that people talk about.
Yeah.
That I want to do freelancing. I understand the benefits of freedom. I get to choose I can set my own rules. But the risk of not having clients, right? That consistent paycheck coming in when you have a full-time job, right? And you mentioned something that you have to be smart about this, right? You have to recognize that's going to happen. Let's create a strategy. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, how do you create that strategy?
I think first and foremost, have a runway. And I know, Nalanja, we know each other. And for the past year, I said no to several opportunities because I was dealing with some family stuff. And so I had to say no. But I had to know my burn rate for my lifestyle. So whatever that lifestyle is that you have, and I try to keep it fairly minimal myself. I do, vacations and do things like that. And they're usually tied around, I'll extend a conference visit or somewhere I'm speaking or something.
Right.
But overall, knowing your burn rate and really making sure you understand what your numbers are. And then when money is coming in, don't think, oh yeah, I got money and spend it. It's really about saving for that rainy day. So when I would get money coming in, I would only pay myself about 35 to 40% of whatever the invoice was. The rest I was putting into savings because I knew, some of that would go into long-term retirement, which as a freelancer, when you are a solo company in the United States, at least, there's some great benefits to that when it comes to retirement savings and how you can defer money off into your retirement. You can put extra money in. So, as an employee, you get your 19,000 or whatever the number is this year. Well, you can put another up to 25% of your company's profits up to, I want to say it's getting close to $60,000 a year right now that you can put towards your retirement, depending on your age and, a bunch of different things like that, factors. I don't know the exact 2025, 2026, because I have to look up the numbers before I close out my year and make sure I get I'm maximizing where I can maximize. But you have a lot of different opportunities and benefits, but understanding like, okay, I have a contract, it's 90 days. What's the probability of it extending? A lot of times you'll get a contract and it's like, hey, we know we need you, but the client only does it in increments. Like I've got a client right now. It's like every 3 months, they'll do a new increment, but the plan is long-term, but you can't bank on that. So you
Right.
always need to kind of look at what are your other things you want to do. For me, diversification of revenue streams has been very important. So I started out very early, and I bought a rental property very early. And then that, and over time, I've got a couple now, not a lot, but I do have revenue that comes in. And because two of the properties I own don't even have a mortgage, it's just cash flow coming in. I've got mortgage, I've got insurance and taxes, of course, I've got to pay, but the rest of it becomes a buffer. So if I'm having a bad month, if invoices come in late, I've got a buffer. I also look at, I do coaching on the side. So I have client work, but then I'll take up individual clients to do coaching with. That's another revenue stream. It's high impact, it's high value for the client, what they're receiving. And it's a buffer for me. I don't do it full time that I'm going to take on 20 clients, but I'll do a couple clients, for a little while, because those are usually 3 to 6 month type of transformational activities to help them through whatever they're going through. And so it's having a diversification. Where I'm working now are more in the e-commerce, and I'm got some plans to launch. Got a little bit delayed this year, but the plan is to get those launched in 2026 for some digital assets. Nice thing about them, you build them once, they work 24/7, so long as you get the right audience. And this is where you can start to leverage your technology, automations, and things like that to help manage some of that. So it's not all sitting on me. When as needed, I've hired virtual assistants. So if I needed work, I needed support with some things that were things I could easily delegate to somebody else. Get a virtual assistant to help out for a little while. Usually those are done in, a couple months up to a year minimum contract, depending on which agency you work with. But there's virtual assistants all around the globe. And so it's about, first, you got to know what your burn rate is. You got to understand what is the potential revenue streams and the probability of each of those. And when you do have revenue, save for the rainy day.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes.
Yes. So like I said, I kind of happened into this. It was like, oh, there was an opportunity, and I didn't. Marketing and sales has always been kind of one of those weaker points. So over the last couple of years, I've really started leaning into the marketing and sales. Now, I will say all of my bigger contracting opportunities have come from referrals or people reaching out to me through a referral. And that is because there's this whole sense of building social equity. And I think this kind of ties into the nonprofit work. So at least here, I had started a nonprofit back. It was my maternity leave adventure. And so I met with somebody who had a question. I'm like, hey, I don't have an answer, but I have an idea that might help us get the answer because it's a great question. And so, 2 days later, we went and incorporated a nonprofit. And then we launched it a few months later at the beginning of, 2009. Yeah, 2009. And so with that, it was gathering people and experts, and we started to kind of create this community. So we were doing monthly meetups. We started doing conferences. We partnered with other organizations. And during the 10 years that I led that organization and grew it to, several thousands of members, and we were doing, 1,000-person 2-day conferences, I never took a salary. I never asked people for, hey, can you get me a job? I never asked for those things. Instead, I was really focused on what are we creating? How are we making the community better? And there was a lot of people who came through and are like, hey, I want to get into this field. Great. we created projects for them and let them, hey, create this project, do this thing. And it gave them the opportunity to learn and build experience while also helping the nonprofit. So we were all, volunteers, but everybody was growing and learning. And we had some people that went all the way up to be president of their divisions and things like that from participating in that particular nonprofit over the 10 years that I was running it. So in that case, I built a lot of social equity. And so that's something that's a long-term strategy is for anybody starting out. First and foremost, if nobody knows who you are and knows what you can do, no one's going to hire you. They're not going to trust you. Doesn't matter what the paper says. You have to go out and meet people. And it can be uncomfortable. I will tell you, I stood in front of 500 people and forgot my name. I literally just stood there like, I don't remember my name. So later years, it was a joke. I wrote my name down. I know my name today, right? Because I had to get comfortable over time. I was petrified to stand in front of a meetup of 20 people. But I said yes to being the president of the group. This was kind of the precursors to me starting the nonprofit. There was another group that someone had founded. I liked going. It was fun to attend. I was learning. And then they were getting ready. It's either going to be disbanded if nobody would step up. So a couple of us raised our hand and got voted in. I think I had more people from my consulting company there that voted me in over somebody else's consulting company. You know, it's one of those, like, it wasn't because it was me. It was because I had enough people saying yes to me. But I remember I was scared to death standing in front of 20 people and talk to them. Now I'm like, I don't care.
It's crazy how much of this is so common between us. The same thing. I mean, I feel like doing this nonprofit stuff or doing this meetups, helping others, adds so much value. It's just crazy. Scary, right? Doing this meetups, people say you're wasting your time, but you never know how that things adds up.
Yeah. And what I learned, I will say from doing it, I got exposure to all different parts of the industry because you had to have sponsors. You had to have an audience. You had to have a facility and a location to hold your events, right?
Yeah.
And so learning to recognize what was in the interest of this company versus this company. Which companies could I not pair on the same event because they were competitors? So really starting to understand that helped educate me a lot on just kind of corporate politics, which I always avoided. But I did learn like, oh, there are dynamics here and how do you bring people together? And it also exposed me to, people get paid to speak. What? Really? I can just go show up. It doesn't have to be for free. And so I actually ended up getting a couple paid speaking things. And then because I was building my network, some of the consulting companies were like, hey, I'll pay you if you refer somebody and we hire them. Oh, okay. So diversification of revenue streams. I think one year was like $10,000 just helping people get a job.
Yeah.
I did nothing but recruit them and introduce them.
Yeah, same thing happened to me. So I don't know whether I told you this. I got invited to do a keynote presentation, and they asked me how much money you want for this, and I said some number which made sense for me in terms of how many hours I'm going to spend. And this is the first time I've heard, no, you should be asking for more. Organizers, like, you have no idea what the market rate is, so it's kind of wild. I do have a question. I mean, I think this goes back to saying, because I feel like all this stuff also made you better coach, right? I mean, so maybe you should share that little bit, what kind of services you offer. Maybe we'll do that at the end, because that way people will know when to contact you. But tell us a scenario. We do that all the time because real world learning is a tremendous experience. Walk through us a difficult freelancing scenario you had to do with your client customer and how you sort of manage that.
Oh, there's all kinds of difficult ones. It depends how you define difficult, I think, which is probably a standard consultant answer.
Yeah. You're really good at this. Something you remember saying, I will make sure I never do that again.
Never do this,
Oh, okay. So this one actually, I briefly took a job. So in my career, I took a job twice. but it still was a great lesson learned. And I got the job because of my consulting experience. And so they wanted somebody to come in and lead a very large program. And the package was good. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I needed a little bit of stability at the time because I had just come out of a very long, it was just a long divorce process. Mm-hmm. And so I needed a little bit of stability. Everything was going great. I mean, we were putting in new security infrastructure, building everything out so we could do second factor authentication, so you could do remote deposit capture on your banking systems. So we were building out infrastructure. We were building out all these customer-facing apps and online presence, as well as there's just a lot of things. When you're happened to be in a bank. In the banking industry, majority of the transactions happen between November and January for the bank because you just get all of the transactions because of all the holiday stuff. So usually your banking IT departments are going to shut down when it comes to any kind of releases. There's maintenance, emergency maintenance, but pretty much you're shut down. We had done all of our due diligence, right? Everything that we needed to do was good. However, Microsoft actually pushed out a mandatory change. And that change hit right at the time we were launching in January. And we weren't aware of it because, I don't know, a couple years earlier, somebody made the decision as a cost-cutting save that we're not going to pay for some kind of notifications about Microsoft stuff, like somewhere along the line. Because we did all of our testing. We did everything we were supposed to do. The crippling effect of that mandatory change on what we were building, because it was a significant change on the applications that were our banking applications for our customers to log in to do their banking, crashed them because the browsers and all this stuff, it messed up the browsers.
I see.
And I don't remember all the details because this is going way back. Mm-hmm. But the point of it was so bad. We did not, the help desk knew we were going live. We always work with them, let them know, hey, we're going live. These are the things we're changing. If this happens, here's what you can do. Yeah. But this caught all of us by surprise. There were not enough employees in the help desk. Had we had enough employees there to actually go and man all the calls. And keep in mind, this is way back. So people still weren't as comfortable. We weren't as being mobile enabled and building our mobile app was newer. We were only a couple years in on that. And it crippled. It was taking a help desk call about 45 minutes to an hour per person to walk them through how to clear their cookies, clear their cache, do all these things, do this different stuff. So for people who were technically, enabled, we put a message, but we had those, the critical situations, crit sits. Right. You were there on site. You weren't to leave. And it was another scenario where, okay, kids come in, gave them markers they could draw on the walls with the white markers, on the glass walls. We had to fly in from Singapore, our vendors, and we had to sit and say, what is our solution? And we were locked in there and taking rotational shifts. We recovered because, again, we did everything we could have possibly have done. This was just something that was just so out of left field. But maintaining the composure, not blaming the team. I would say our leadership, though they were upset, at the time, the leadership was, hey, okay, what are we going to do? It was just about let's solve.
That's good.
That type of situation is what I had spent previously, 10 years earlier or so, doing as an availability manager for another bank. So being able to solve and maintain that. So it's little things you learn, even if you go from being a freelancer into consulting and back out again, I'm back out again. Yeah. You bring those lessons learned and you bring those failures with you. So you better believe every single time we did a release after that, no matter what, we were checking extra things that maybe we weren't. That's it's not that big a risk. Yeah. Keep a risk log. Keep risk logs. Keep track of these types of things. because you're going to need it. And if there's regulators involved and things like that, you need that information. Because I've worked in a lot of regulatory industries, banking, insurance, gas and oil, things like that.
So I had a date much like that too. I think my biggest one is like working 48 hours nonstop. Fixing problems. I slept. I did the whole thing. That's crazy.
The ebb and flow of hours, Nilanjan, is that can go. Because I will say, a few years ago, I was in contract for like 80 hours a week, like based on like different clients that were coming in. Now, nobody luckily called those 80 hours, but I had to be prepared that there might be time where I was working an 80-hour week. And that means very little sleep, right? Like everything in my whole world around me has to be as much systematized. And that gets into not only understanding your like financial situation, right? And knowing what your burn rate is there, but also where do you have inefficiencies in your life? Managing a household with kids. How do I prep in bulk? How do I make sure we're eating healthy and do that in bulk, right? How do there's like a lot of different things. And there are times where it's like, my floor is not getting vacuumed this week. There is no time for it unless I can get my kids to do it, which the kids always do chores. It's part of being in a family. Like you have to do chores and help. But, there are times as a freelancer, it ebbs and flows. And when it's coming in, it's hard to say no sometimes. And you're like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. But you got to watch burnout. Got to watch the burnout.
Yeah, it's a marathon. So this is a good segue to AI, because I interact lots of people. I consider you as a very AI savvy user because you always, hey Nilanjan, have you tried this tool? Have you tried this tool? so goes back to because I think you operate very efficient in terms of how you have systemized and organized everything. Just walk us through how sort of AI changed your workflow and how AI is helping you as a solo entrepreneur.
Oh, I would say the biggest thing is AI has given me hours back. And I say this, that if I've got a question or something that I'm working on, and there is lots of known information out there. For example, I'm working with a medical company right now. We're putting together plans for a cloud migration. Now, I've done lots of infrastructure work. I've done software work. I've worked in data and analytics, right? I've done all these different, very large, tens of millions of dollars type of programs. In this particular case, though, I'm like, oh, I'm not very savvy. Mine was on-prem. I'm not very savvy on cloud types of stuff. So being able to just sit with my Chat GPT and my Claude, because this information is public information, I can ask questions and be brought up to speed so much quicker. So it helps me show up day one to, even doing research on the client before I show up, like understanding who is this client, what do they do, in preparations to show up on day one. It just helps you be more effective that way, because typically you show up like, okay, I'm at a client, I'm at a new company, and you got to learn, what do they do? Who do they do? What, why is it, what's important? I can do all that prep research very quickly because, especially for large organizations, all their information is public. You can go grab their financial statements. You can go to see what's important to them, what their strategy is, where they're trying to go. So you make sure that when you're working on things, you're aligning it to their longer term strategies. That helps you get buy-in from senior leadership when you know where they're going. So I think it saves me a huge amount of time in just preparation. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. It must be a male person. But basically, it's saved a lot of time. The other thing that it's done is for synthesizing information. So a couple of the tools I like to use is if I'm researching something, I can go Google, right? We always start with a Google.
Yeah.
But Google gives you a lot of consulting company fluff. I'm just going to say it as a consultant. There's a lot of repetitive, packaged nicely. We're all saying the same thing, just in our own branded version. but we never go into the details.
Right.
Like, where's the actual real evidence? Now, there will be, you can dig for that and get to the root data, but then you got a lot of information you have to synthesize and process. So for me, grabbing those, getting to the root data, grabbing that, and then I like to go to Elicit. And Elicit does have a free version. You can pay.
What is it? What is it, Elicit?
Elicit, I use it. You go and you say, hey, here is a topic I'm researching. It will give you, like, out of scientific journals, out of different things, like actual point you to the PDF documents that are, here's the PDF document for, there's like 20 of them on that topic that you're asking about. So I'll go there. It'll give you a brief abstract of each of them. Now, some of the PDFs are behind a paywall, and if you really want it, you got to pay for it. But a lot of them, it just points you, here's the original source. You go out on some university website or, you know, some industrial organization site, and a lot of it's not, those PDFs are not behind paywalls. So it gives you the opportunity to quickly get to real research, right? Not the fluff. And so when you're really trying to understand something, you can go grab it. Now, the nice thing is when Notebook LM came out, guess what you can do? Upload all of those PDFs and start asking questions of it. And it will highlight, oh, this information is found in this PDF on this page here.
Yeah.
So now when I'm trying to find stuff, I'm trying to find information, I can get to the very specific ones, and then I can go in and kind of search around it, right? Like, is there anything else? But it helps cut down. If I've got 500 pages of research to go through, I can look for patterns. I can say, ask which documents and information. Now I've got my anchored items. And doing this is what helped me write one of the books it's more of a marketing ebook kind of thing, but I wrote for our Matrix Intelligence, because I knew from my experience as a systems thinker, right? Someone who really builds out corporate ecosystems, thinks about, you know, from an exponential transformation perspective, I'm looking at all the different areas from a strategy, how they can interplay with each other to create more than the parts, right? The sum is greater than the parts. And so in doing that, I can ask questions and I know where I'm going with things. And then I can ask also to challenge me. My friend MJ, she likes to say, be my mutual mentor to hers. There's another lady, I forget her name, but she does like, be my fierce mentor. So when you're having your conversations with your AIs, a lot of times it's very rosy. Oh, that's wonderful. You're so smart. You're the greatest. That's the best idea ever. Oh, okay. Yes. My ego.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it's viable.
Right. Agree.
And so like, right now I'm working with my daughter. She's launching, I think launching, you know a little bit about this. She's launching her botanical tea. So it's her Rose Botanicals. And we're also, I just purchased a $2,000 freeze dryer. So we can start freeze drying stuff too from the garden. But basically, you know, we're starting to build out her business. And it's like, well, who's the right audience for that? What are the blends? What are the things? And so we can use a series of these different tools to help us research. But also when I'm like, oh, I have this idea, wouldn't this be great? And then if you ask the AI to be a fierce mentor back or a mutual mentor back, it's going to challenge you. And I've had it, and there's some different expansion ideas, because I'm here looking at, if I start here day one, what does 10 years look like? And different ideas along the path is building that out. And it's sometimes crushes my ego, which is good. Like you want to, oh, I guess that wasn't the best idea. And it's not that it's not the best. It's just that it's not researched or thought out well enough, or you haven't really assessed the risks, because
one of the prompt hack I use, whether I told you or not, is that whenever it says, oh, this is a really good idea, you should do it, then I say, okay, this is actually not my idea, my friend's idea, and I want to give me reasons why I should tell my friend not to do this. And then it becomes really critical, saying, okay, yeah, there are some challenges like this that you should worry
Yeah,
about.
I love it. I'll have to try that one too.
But this brings up a very interesting point too, like how you quickly prepare for your client meetings and the new project that you're signing up, even if that project might be using new technology like cloud.
Mhm.
On the other side, also the expectations I feel like gone up, right? Clients now expect you to be sort of ready, right, from
Yeah.
day one, right?
They don't want to train you, like
Yeah.
flat out. If you're coming
Yeah.
in and they're paying a premium for you, they do not want to train you.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
told that, like you got to come in and know. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes
that's the thing
years
of a
to learn.
freelancer, right? Well, I'm hiring you as a freelancer. You're supposed to be expert in this, right? Why should I train you, right?
Yeah.
So that brings up another interesting point of like how you keep up with this, right? Is AI helping you to keep up with the internet because things are moving so fast, right?
Yes. Yes. So I use a couple different AIs, and then I ask them a lot of times the same questions. So that way I can kind of see how they're answering and what they're answering. And then I cross feed them to each other. So if I'm looking at different tools, so
Okay.
my primary go-tos, I use ChatGPT a lot. I know there's some things about saving your history and stuff, but I don't feel like I use it for anything that I have to worry about that, at least at this point. So when they first started letting you create GPTs, I started creating GPTs. So I have a bunch of specialized GPTs for different things.
Oh, the custom GPTs? I see.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I started doing it as soon as it was available. I also was in the beta testing for Manus. So for me, I know you're like, why do you use Manus? I'm like, I use Manus for certain things. I don't really care for Manus's presentations per se, but I do feel like it does a little more research for me, where Claude is great for when I want to get it for my wording. Like I like Claude for some of the wording. I know it's better for like some of the software type stuff, but I don't really code. So for me, it's like, that's not the benefit for me, but I do like some things. But what I get frustrated with Claude is that I'm in the middle of a conversation and, you've run to the end of this conversation. It's happened on projects. It's happened on conversations. ChatGPT lets me go. I have yet for ChatGPT to say, hey, you've gone too long on a conversation. Manus is very clear about your tokens. So I do pay for Manus now, but I see, here's my tokens. Here's how much this query is costing me. But I find that if I give it something, it does a pretty good job of going out and gathering stuff. It does hallucinate and make up some stuff sometimes. I mean, they all do. So you have to really anchor it and say, only use these files. Like if I've got a bunch of things I need to sort and organize, for example, like I've got the partnerships for training. And if I want to put together a package and combine multiple trainings, I can take my master list and go to Manus and say, put this together and help me figure out like some ideas and package it. So each of them I use for different purposes from that perspective. But now I forget what the original question was because I've been back.
That's okay.
But either way,
how you kind of keep up with the changes, I guess the question.
Yeah, keeping up with the changes is one, just staying on top of the news, like what's going on. Right. There's like Hugging Face there's information there. There's some different websites. I can't think of them off the top of my head. But there's
so my
different
hack was So our hack was we do a podcast every week, a 10x developer. There is another podcast we do regularly, not this one. This is only guest. That sort of forces me to keep up with what all the AI changes because I have to know to cover them in the podcast. It's not for audience. Honestly, we too decided because we too wanted to keep up with the change. And now we enjoy talking about stuff and So
I think that's where Magnifying Minds plays a role in this, because Magnifying Minds is another nonprofit that a couple of us started last year. So we've got our 501c3 and everything. But as part of that, it is about helping small business owners and entrepreneurs leverage technology. Now, not everything is AI. There's other automations. You can use N8N. You can use, different tools out there for your automation. But that also forces me because, especially when we were doing monthly sessions, we kind of took a break over the second half of the year just because a lot of things that were going on. But when we're like every month, we're doing some kind of a session that does force you to stay on top. So I think it's an excellent strategy that you guys are using to stay current. For me, it's more, I'm trying to learn things and I'm doing different things. Like I took a trip up to Cleveland to meet with a couple volunteers for Magnifying Minds so they could help me learn N8N faster, right?
Yeah.
Or using various tools so I could use them faster. So
yeah. All right. So I think we've spent like 50 minutes talking here, right? So I want to ask, I want to ask a question that is a little bit off, nothing serious. So if you would work from anywhere in the world, anywhere at all, for 1 month, right? Where would it be? I know you mentioned you traveled a lot, right? And all those things at the early age. Yeah. So anywhere in the world, where will it be?
Oh, let's see. I really do like Italy. I was there. It's been quite a few years ago now. I do occasionally actually will go somewhere for like a sabbatical. Like a couple years ago, I went down to Virginia Beach for 3 weeks and just got an oceanfront room. So I was working remotely and I would sit there and just watch the dolphins go by and, you know, they'd go this way and later today they'd go that way. And I did that for like 3 weeks. And it was because it was close. It's off season. So I went down in the winter time. So there was very few people. And it was just watching and being like, you go take a walk out along the beach. So I do try to do things like that. But I think I'd like to go back to Italy. So
do you speak Italian?
No, I do not. But yeah, I've been learning Portuguese, but I'm not very good at that either.
All right. Yeah, a friend of mine recently moved to Lisbon, and it's a really cool country, you know. From what he says, I think it's a really good country. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the future. I think we'll have about 10 more minutes, right? So let's talk a little bit about the future. So what do you think the future of freelancing is, you know, with the whole AI thing coming into play? You said that for you, it helps you buy back time, right? So what do you think the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think the next Jennifer's life is going to be like?
So I think if we look out from kind of where we are now to where we are going, I think everybody needs to, at some degree, be ready to do some freelancing. We've already seen it with the gig economy, at least here in the United States. I don't think the gig economy is going to go away because for large companies, that is a way of using staff on demand, which is an attribute to exponential growth. And so for larger organizations, they love the staff on demand. In fact, like I've had clients are like, yeah, we could hire this person in, but then it binds them if there's a turn in the economy and things like that. So they don't have as much flexibility. So by leveraging your staff on demand, you actually have flexibility as a larger company. So that creates opportunities for freelancing. I also think because AI is out there, it is so easy for people to go set up a Shopify account, set up a Stripe account with it, set up an N8 automation to take your products and market them out. The cost of currently it's changing, like the whole SEO marketing because of AI. So I'm not 100% sure where that's going. But the point is that you can pretty quickly, with low cost, get something set up. And you may not sell anything for 6 months, but once you start, right, it builds confidence in you and it also starts to build your audience. I think that it just becomes additional revenue streams for those downtimes. And we have a lot of instability. Everybody knows it's like a job is not a safety net like it used to be for our parents and grandparents. You know, you had a job, you did one thing, you did it your entire life. That is just not the reality. I mean, even my kids, they've had multiple jobs. My oldest, I've had her go straight into consulting when she graduated so she could try different companies, different roles to learn what she likes. Now, she is in a full-time role situation, but she loves it because she had the chance to go and explore and try different things first. And so I think it's important for our younger generation to go and explore. You can do it on your own. You can do it as a sub. into other companies, which is how I do a lot of my work. It's like, hey, there's another larger company, but they don't have the staff and I have a certain specialty. I just do a corp to corp. So it is important, set up a business entity. Even if you're selling soap, set it up as a business entity. It's like in Ohio, at least, I think it's like $125 or something. You register, then you go get your sales license. And there's a small cost. So there's a small startup cost to get that in place. But what that allows you to do is for the first couple of years, you may not be making any money, but you're spending money. Take the money that you're spending as an expense while you still have your day job, and you can write those expenses off, and it actually reduces your taxes on your day job. I did that for many years until I was profitable. Like whenever I was starting something new, if I
exactly
had taken the job, remember I've taken a couple of jobs. It's like, oh, while I have a job, I'm still always on the side. My brain doesn't shut off. And it's like, oh, well, what's the other thing? That's why I have so many different businesses, and they're all in different states. Like we've got some construction. I had a partner with that one, and now, it's slowed down. I just mainly do mostly maintenance type of work and little repairs. I haven't gone and done any major remodels for a while. But I have the property management. I've got, the e-commerce we're launching. I have the consulting and the coaching. They're all different revenue streams. And each one of those has different layers of capital intensiveness to it. You've got losses. You can offset your losses, especially as a freelancer, when they're all flow through, right? They're LLCs and they just flow through to you. Then they all start to balance out. So I may make a couple $100,000 over here, and I may be losing money over here. And when they start to wash out, it's okay, because from the taxes, I know I'm building over here and it's starting to make its growth. And then at the point where it starts to become very profitable, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's time to go start a new brand or something, because now I know it needs a runway, right? It needs a runway. And over time, though, these ebbs and flows, as they're kind of, this one's down, this one's up, they start to keep you a little more even keel. And when you take the cash from the one, put your savings, and then you reinvest the other ones into your next venture.
Yeah,
just
makes sense.
But it's, again, it goes back to that strategy, knowing what your cost of living is at your minimum. So you always make sure you can cover those. If that helps answer questions.
No, that's excellent.
Approach, right? It's been my approach. It's allowed me to raise 4 kids as a single mom. It's allowed me to travel, taking my kids and traveling around the world. It's allowed me to do a lot of different things as somebody who grew up extremely poor. So to me, I'm 100%. And this is part of why VerveCurve is one of my passions. Is that one, the goal is to get 1 million moms, single moms, to 1 million net worth. And so that's the one that I'm in the process of starting to build out that collateral and that's one of the ones that's going to be launching as well.
So is there a site that might be a good way to sort of end this? I mean, this is a very powerful statement, what you said. I mean, immediately connected with that. That's pretty powerful, because I know there are so many women there struggling with this, right? So how can, I guess, to sum it up, what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they have an additional question, or sign up for some of the initiatives that you're doing?
Oh, well, each of those have their own email addresses and websites. So the easiest way in all reality is to hit me up on LinkedIn, because that then I can funnel people to, oh, you're interested in VerveCurve and you're interested in financial empowerment. Great. Here's our programs that we're, having available, which there's just some very beginning level ones. There's not, the advanced ones are in works of being created. Then same thing with like the different e-commerce stuff. And we're currently in the process, if you're local in our Ohio region here, we're looking at doing some pop-ups. So if somebody has a small business that would like to have a little tea pop-up, we're also looking at with Lamb's Network in combination with the Raya Rose Botanicals to do fundraising. So for churches and schools who are looking for new fundraising platforms, Lamb's Network is really about creating that fundraising platform, because it's something that, it's a give back. So there's a lot of different things there. And then Magnifying Minds, that's just more we're putting content together. We're looking for collaborators to help build out content on the newest technologies, how it relates to small businesses. So again, a lot of different things going on.
Yeah.
Yes, it is hard for me to sleep at days.
Yeah, I was about to ask,
In a bad
how
way.
do you keep it all together? Like, how do you keep it everything in check? How do you?
Huge calendars here, huge
Oh,
calendars here. I have two-sided moving whiteboards. I've got whiteboards here, whiteboards behind the curtains. I've
wow.
got online. I've got mural boards and different notions. And then one of the things, though, that I can kind of land on too is a more technical thing. Where I struggled was the finances, staying on top of the finances. And this past year, I bit the bullet and I just started moving from spreadsheets into an actual tool. And oh my gosh, I'm like so mad at myself for not doing it sooner, because doing double entry accounting on a spreadsheet is a pain. And so Wave is the one I've been using because it's very intuitive. They got their little free version. And because a freelancer, I don't need all the bells and whistles. I just need to be able to track my books, right? And track my in and out type of stuff. You can pay to do more of the automated ones, but I'm still in the process of just building. Once I get to a point where it makes sense, I can pay for something. But they do have free accounts. So that's been a lifesaver this past year.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Oh, all right. So thank you very much.
Now let me say
Yeah.
a couple of lines here. So connect with Jennifer. We'll make sure to drop her LinkedIn on the show notes, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
I got an opportunity to work with Jennifer in a couple of initiatives, and we are very close. I know she is very passionate about it. It's amazing. If you haven't got an opportunity to work with her, this is going to be, and if you're excited to do something or be part of what she's doing, it's going to be amazing opportunity. Do definitely connect with her. 30 minutes with her, I can promise you will learn tons of stuff from her.
Yeah.
And so,
Thank you, Neil.
and thanks for
thank
doing
you.
this, Jennifer.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Jennifer. I really learned a lot from doing this. Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's been great being here with you guys. Enjoy the rest of
Yeah.
your day.